So Chern-Hooi, it's really great to have you here today. Thank you for being with us. I'm gonna start from reading a little bit of your resume so that we ensure that we have everything right. And so it's your chance to correct me. And I'm sometimes mistaken, so it's important we get it right. So you're Chern-Hooi Lim. You're currently working at your own company. You're founder and CEO of New Iridium Incorporated. You started with a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from Drexel University. You then moved on to University of Colorado Boulder, where Matt, our producer, is from actually, which is kind of makes it a small word. Where you did your PhD work with the group of Charles Musgrave, right?
That's
and
correct.
and then you moved to Colorado State University with Garen Miyake for your postdoc, and after that you started your own company. So it's quite an interesting path, and obviously you're not a Native American, so that makes it even more interesting. So yeah, I guess if I have got everything correct, which I hope.
So, so there's a little detail there that so actually Garrett also started as a assistant professor at University of Colorado.
Yeah.
So actually I did my postdoc 1.5 year also at University of Colorado, and then 1.5 year in Colorado State University.
So when you moved the group, then you went with them.
Yeah, exactly. When he moved the group, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. It's good to be precise. So the way we usually start this is trying to get to know the person before speaking about the science, because it's always nice to try and find the connection between the personality and the work. And so reconstructing your path to where you are now is a good thing to try and do at the beginning. So let's look back, even a lot back, right? And so how did you start being interested in science, or in chemistry in particular?
So yeah, I think even when I was in high school, I think I know I'm not a language person, I'm not a music person. I always have a strong interest in science, in math, in physics, in chemistry. I just feel very comfortable. So not surprisingly, from high school and then to Drexel University, I chose the STEM pathway because it's my passion. I know I'm good at it. So I would say particularly chemistry, I'm strong even in high school. So it just comes naturally to me, and I have it's something I really truly enjoy.
And this is something you just encountered at school, or is it? Do you have any family tradition, or did you have any interest in, any sort of vaguely scientific thing even before going to school? Some people do.
Yeah. So yeah, my family. So yeah, my mom, my dad, no, they're not in this area at all. I don't know. I don't know why I love chemistry. So yeah, the thing is, my sister influenced me. I mean, she is six years ahead of me, and she always wanted to do engineering. So I think that's at least a start. Guide me in the direction of engineering. So, but the thing is, engineering, there's many different types of engineering, and yeah, also through an influence of my friend, I picked chemical engineering, and yeah, I thought chemical engineering will be a good marriage between chemistry and engineering. That's how I started.
Makes perfect sense. I can see that, and so obviously you were good at school. You felt this connection with STEM, and chemistry in particular. So your choice of chemical engineering. How was it moving to the US? How did you get the opportunity to actually do it?
So when I was 18 years old, so I applied and accepted to a student exchange program called AFS, American Field Service. So it's a exchange program for 1 year. So I came after high school, and lived with a host family in a suburb of Philadelphia. So actually, I still keep in touch with them, and I attended my host brother's wedding this just past summer. So I still keep in touch with them and still have a very good relationship with them. So yeah, everything started with this student exchange program, and after that, I apply. During the program, I applied to Drexel University and get accepted.
Makes sense. And then basically never thought about going back because the US offers quite a lot for scientists, isn't it?
Yeah, so and especially Drexel offers scholarship. So actually, I don't know if I mentioned, I pretty much self-finance my
Oh, no,
own
you didn't.
education.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
must be
So
challenging.
yeah, so my family definitely helped, but Drexel is known for their extended internship program. So it's 6 months for times three, so 18 months of internship. So you can make some real money, and so I was able to contribute quite a bit to pay off my own student tuitions, my education, and also Drexel University gave me 50% in terms of scholarship. So I got 50% scholarship, and the rest, I pretty much self-finance the rest of my way. So I have a strong connection of how to manage money. So
That's good. Did you know how to manage money? Were you comfortable with that? Is it something that you had to learn the hard way?
it's always a learning, but ever since I was young, in Malaysia, you always are given very little and try to maximize, what you got.
So kind of having
So
blood. That is kind of interesting.
yeah, so and also a strong influence from my mom. So yeah, I mean, everybody has to try to do the most with the little they got, and so I try to maximize, my times here at Drexel. Got yeah, on top of the original scholarship, I got more scholarship to help pay off my, you know, tuition.
Yeah, and I think we need to acknowledge that because there are lots of programs that really allow talented people like yourself to get proper education and get into careers where they can actually express themselves. And without it, it would have been really challenging or even impossible for you and many others, right? And very often we complain about, about the lack of support, if you wish. But there are a lot of things available, really, and of course never enough. But it's I'm glad that you highlight how much supported you were. But obviously you had to put your own effort in it. I'd like to speak about the challenges, right? How difficult was it? You mentioned the fact that you actually were in a pretty solid structure. Drexel offers a lot. You were with a host family, which I suppose helped you out quite a bit in terms of getting settled in a new country. But there's still the language barrier. There's still the cultural shock. I'm assuming as a young kid, it was quite a bit of struggle to get to where you are.
Yeah, actually, I came here by myself. My parents are all back in Malaysia,
Yeah.
so I was. So the thing is, yeah, even when I was young, I learned to be independent. Actually, I moved out at age 15
Okay.
because so that I can be closer to the school, so I have less commute. Even yeah, when I was young, I have to commute quite a bit to go to high school because I try to go to a better high school. So even at age 15, I have to know how to live by myself and do your own laundry
Yeah.
and do everything. So seems like yeah, even I was young, 15 years old, I learned how I also enjoy the independence. So yeah, when I came to the country, age 18, yeah, again it's also by myself. But the thing is, before that I've been doing things myself. So yeah, so but the thing, of course, there's a lot of help to help me to get comfortable and integrate into the society. So yeah, but the thing is, I think the training early on helped me to to do things myself. The thing is, and actually you can see my career to entrepreneurship is the same thing. It's everything connected. How to be resourceful, how to be independent, how to think on your own. I mean, everything, even research, same thing. I have to think about the ideas and what to work on. So I think those practice came early, even when I was 15 years old.
I'm kind of surprised because you don't let any struggle transpire for what you say. In a way, it feels like you were fully prepared for it. Uh, as an 18-year-old guy, coming from Malaysia into Philadelphia, which is a big city, it's surprising, and but I totally believe you. I mean, it's you obviously have the personality, and you had the right experience as a young boy to be fully ready, and so you're definitely a fighter, and you knew what you wanted, which is great. So do you think that this experience that you've done, early on in your, even back in your own country, and then moving on to the US, is this giving you an edge? So do you think you have like a sort of extra preparation? Is it maybe part of your personality or your experience compared to some, at least, of your peers?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, so essentially, if you think about my hometown, I'm the only one that arguably came to the US. So I already, against the odd, right, to come here. And on the way, knowing how to overcome adversity. So, I think it just become parts of you. I don't see challenge to beat me down, but I see it part of life. So just do it. I mean, so in school, so as you see, at Drexel, I think I mentioned I self-finance my own education. The thing is, that means I have skin in the game because I have to go to, work on the internship, make money, and pay for my own tuition. So as a result, I appreciate more, right? So yeah, so I graduated essentially first in class, and yeah, because why not? I have to give the best because I know there's no turning back. If let's say if my GPA fall below 3, they will kick me out. I lost my scholarship. I can't afford that. So I have a mission in my head. I must succeed.
It's really powerful. Your sheer determination to succeed, and your uh, uh, faith in yourself, right? Your confidence that you can actually make it, and you're saying, yeah, and you actually made it very easily. Easily. You were the first in your class. You knew you had talent. You knew you had the capabilities. You just went for it. And your track record is impressive. If you just move a few years on, and during your PhD, you had like 15, if I counted correctly, 15 jacks and a science I saw. Yeah, that's beyond remarkable. Is this your determination and your being trained to the challenge and really striving to achieve? Is it, how much of it is also the the people you encountered on your way, and the mentors or the groups you work in?
So I think it definitely is a combination.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think a lot of things for success to happen, many elements need to come together at one point together for success to happen. So yeah, so especially in my postdoc career, I was especially productive, and also because Professor Gary Miyake, he was assistant professor. I mean, we all, it's like work for assistant professor is like working for a startup, right? Yeah. So so essentially the energy is very high. Everybody work with everybody. So I would say the energy is high. So another key factor is, yeah, Professor Gary Miyake, very encouraging. So just go explore, just do research where you think the most cutting edge. The thing is, if you're doing cutting edge science, you're going to have good publications. So yeah.
Is Miyake your real mentor, or did you have anybody else during your path that played a role for you?
So yeah, I mean, for my PhD, there will be Professor Charles Musgrave. So of course for my postdoc, that would be Professor Miyake. And yeah, Professor Miyake, by the way, he's also a co-founder in my startup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the relationship continues.
And and it makes sense to go there then. So now you are an entrepreneur, which is an interesting choice, and based on how you're describing yourself, it just makes sense, right? It really does. So now I'm not particularly surprised. However, looking at your track record, you could have pursued an academic career probably fairly easily. Is founding a company something you had always had in mind, or did it just happen?
So yeah, I think entrepreneurship sort of runs in my family.
Okay.
So I just realized a few years ago, even my grandfather, yeah, he was a big shot, 60, 70 years ago. I did not know that, like that he actually, was some renowned person in the town because he, runs some like quarry, to mine rocks and things like that. So I did not know that, but I guess it's in me. And also, if you live in this area, Boulder, Fort Collins in Colorado, there's a big startup culture. So I also involve in activities. So that kind of environment, we will just help you stimulate this kind of thoughts to want to become an entrepreneur.
Do you consider yourself lucky to be in an environment that nurtures your own attitude?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to acknowledge luck, I guess. But sometimes
you don't have to.
Yeah. So I believe, you always need a little luck in your life. Yeah. So hard work is minimum. The thing is, I think there's a saying about luck is for the prepared mind. So you need to be ready when the luck comes, to take it. So of course, hard work is always the basis. I mean, for anything. So luck, if without hard work, when the luck comes, this doesn't matter. So I always believe you just have to do the best. In undergrad, I do my best to be first in class. In grad school and postdoc, I also try to do my best to publish and to be productive. So that will prepare me no matter what in the future. So essentially, I have the choice. If I want to go the academic route or the entrepreneurship route, I have the choice because I'm prepared.
So how did the idea come on then? Is it the technology you developed? I'm assuming you guys fight some patents and you have some protections. Was that the rationale to fund the company?
So it's mainly, I see this because I work with the technology. I can see it, transpire to something bigger. I believe this is a technology that can change humanity in the next, decades, especially if you look at global warming, rising CO2 concentration. So, this is a big part, of what the technology can play. Because ultimately, if you look at photocatalysis, is essentially mimicking a lot the aspects of photosynthesis.
Of course.
So if you think about billions of years, the fact that we survive, this life on Earth is all due to photosynthesis. And nature chose that route to make chemicals. So human is just need to learn how to make chemicals with light.
And we will get there because there's a lot of fascination in your science, and your photocatalysis is really trendy these days. But I wanted to ask you a couple more things on your experience as an entrepreneur. Obviously, you're a scientist by background and a core, and the technology is probably your main interest. And why you find yourself in a company, or even if you found a company like you did, you need to deal with a lot of other things. There's legal aspects, there's accounting, there's the sales, and even the marketing. How do you cope with that? Are you having fun? Do you get yourself involved, or do you delegate? What is your approach?
So yeah, the thing is teamwork. Teamwork is very important. That's why I also enlisted co-founders. So I have a co-founder who is, all business background. So yeah, the thing is, entrepreneurship is a chess game, right? So if you're the king on the chessboard, you cannot do everything. You have to have pieces, have people that know how to do things better than you, and then you entrust them to do things for you. So for me, my role is to create a vision, to connect the technology to the market. The thing is, you need many people along the way to help you. So of course, I need to learn. I've been learning my whole life, right? So entrepreneurship is also a journey, a learning journey. So yeah, if I can pick up photocatalysis, I can pick up business. I can pick
Yeah.
up entrepreneurship. I can pick up fundraising. It's about reading. Yeah, you need to read the minds of the people you're dealing with.
So you still have the time to dedicate most of your attention and effort and energy to the science.
So yes, I'm still involved with the science. The thing is, I have to connect the science to business objective. I think that's the only difference.
Of course.
Yeah. So we will design R&D program after we have vetted the business opportunity. So otherwise, if you think about running a startup, is if I were to be in a university as an assistant professor, it's also running a startup. So the end result will be high impact publication for a university setting, but in a startup setting will be a successful business, a truly differentiated solution.
Do you ever regret the arguably higher freedom of choosing your own research if you have taken an academic career?
So actually, I'm still, even entrepreneurship, I'm still at the driver's seat in terms of picking, the research we want to do.
Yeah, but it has to make you money, right?
So your question is what? Do I regret if I?
Well, if you are in a professorship position, of course, assuming you have the funding, you are more free to choose your own directions. It doesn't, your research doesn't necessarily need to produce revenue, right?
Yes.
But as you said it yourself, if you are in a company, your choices are dictated by primarily commercial considerations, isn't it? So is it something that you consider a constraint in any way, or you never thought about it?
No, I think I chosen the path I wanted to. Okay. And so the thing is, for entrepreneurship, so again, in my life, I was at a T junction, right? Turn left, you go to academic career. Turn right, you do entrepreneurship. So I think personality-wise, why I make a right turn, I think my personality, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And also you can see from my chemical engineering background, I want to see the real world implication and real world application of the technology. I want to see a chemical plant being built. I want to see it really impacting humanity. I want to leave a legacy for myself.
That makes perfect sense, and it's the motivation of a lot of high performers, and we see this repeatedly during this podcast. A lot of the smartest people we speak to, they have this sort of aspiration in mind of having a real impact on the world. Is this something you've always had? So did you always think about the potential applications of your research?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's why, I came from an engineering background doing chemistry. So that's why cross-discipline is always good. So it's not like I stayed throughout chemistry. I came from chemical engineering background. So I work in a chemical plant, right? So I see big vessels. I see big reactor. So I can imagining things, I can connect things.
And that's an interesting consideration because the move from an R&D experiment into an actual manufacturing plant is a big one. And a lot of chemists are completely unprepared from the background perspective, while chemical engineers obviously have a completely different angle to it. And I can see how, you have this sort of mindset, right? When you run your thing, it's a very important consideration. I think very often not thought throughout enough, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Yes. So, yeah, I think the key thing is cross-discipline.
Uh-huh.
So I think I mentioned, so previously I was also doing theoretical chemistry,
Yep.
right? And then crossing into experimental science. So when you do cross-discipline, you always discover something new. So same thing, people who are just chemical engineering cannot see what chemistry is doing. People who are in chemistry cannot see what chemical engineering is doing. So I have the cross-discipline and the advantage of that. And then same thing for entrepreneurship, you also need to have cross-discipline between technical and business acumen. Because sometimes it's lost in translation. If you have two people try to do the job of one person, neurons are connected, right? So you can only translate so much.
Right.
So because for us to establish advantage is always some technical nuance that you have to connect to business opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I see the cross-discipline between business and technology and how that can be leveraged to produce something remarkable.
And then we get to something that I should have got to at the beginning, actually kind of upside down. Can you just describe quickly what the focus of the company is?
So initially, New Iridium has undergone its own journey as well. So initially it started out, just commercializing photocatalysts, just selling the reagent catalyst developed in the Miyake lab. So of course I was also a co-inventor. So however, the business model has also evolved because, one good thing is we participated in this National Science Foundation I-Core program. So it's a program for you to conduct 100 interviews over 7 weeks to talk to people in the industry so that you can refine your own business model. So we talk to, different startups, different companies in their different stages. So no one's really makes money by selling reagents. So, but it's a start, our idea is to put our catalyst into the hands of people so they can develop their own chemistry. And then the application will just grow from there.
Well, particularly in catalysis, this is very true, right? Because what you're speaking about is moving up in the value chain. So the catalyst is, by definition, something that makes up a very tricky, from the thermodynamic perspective, transformation possible. So you basically transform something low value into something extremely high value. So the catalyst cannot be bigger than the value jump in your transformation. So obviously, if you can handle the transformation, there's bigger value you can gain, isn't it?
Yeah. So typically, for example, catalyst is a $20 billion market. So normally it has to enable at least 1,000x in value add. So not surprisingly, the whole chemical industry is valued at about $2 trillion. So something much bigger if you can develop a process.
Of course. So
as a result, we're thinking more about process rather than catalyst. So, and something that we've been working on for the last 1 year is on the space of more sustainable chemicals. That's why I mentioned about carbon dioxide utilization, how to actually use carbon dioxide as a feedstock, just like photosynthesis.
And obviously, you still use your technology, photocatalysis technology, as sort of foundation for your process development, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it more on a sort of service model? So you work for third parties, or do you do your own original research and try and sell the process that you kind of own?
So we do the service model if we share the intellectual property. Okay. So we are not, like a contract research organization. We get paid to do R&D. Is not the case. Yeah. So we will work with company to do R&D if we ultimately share the IP and develop the solution together. So because we are yeah, a startup that we want to make a big process happen. We are not doing small projects.
And
like
honestly,
that. Yeah.
the contract research is a tough game. So particularly for a small organization. So it makes perfect sense to me, but it was worth asking. And let me ask you this, because I'm a marketing person, so I'm intrigued by the name. I was trying and come out with my own idea of why you called it New Iridium. Let me tell you what I come up with, but I'm probably completely off. But I thought that a lot of these traditional photocatalysts are iridium based, while your technology is different, right? It's more organocatalysis type. So I thought that might be the angle where you're coming from, but am I right?
Oh, actually, you read my mind. Yes. So,
Yes.
yeah, I envision those organic photocatalysts. They're like a new element, replacing iridium. So, as a result, I call it new iridium. Yes.
And that's an amazing way to jump into it, right? So let's speak about your technology then. So, for the benefit of our audience, can you please do a little bit of introduction into photocatalysis? And we mentioned already iridium, right? That is the technology which is the incumbent, let's put it this way, right? A lot of these systems tend to be iridium complexes. And when you start speaking about iridium and PGMs, it's already a lot of complication from the economic perspective. No one really likes to use precious metals if you can avoid it. But your technology is remarkably different. So would you just start from a general introduction?
So introduction about photocatalysis.
Yes.
So yeah, if you look around us, right, all the materials today, are being made using a technology that was discovered 50 years ago, for example.
Yeah.
So which is heat driven or thermal driven catalysis. So today's technology, essentially just using heat. So heat, if you for the audience, heat can really only activate vibrations. So you just vibrating the molecule to a certain, to certain mode, vibrational excitation mode, that the bone will start stretching and breaking. So that's the thermocatalysis. All the chemistry pretty much today are based on thermocatalysis, just high temperature vibration. So the thing is with light, you introduce a different degree of freedom now. So instead of vibrationally excited molecule, you can have a electronically excited molecules. So by populating the anti-bonding, for example, making the bond weaker, and as a result, it's easier to break even at room temperature. So the key thing about photocatalysis, and also with electronic excitation, you are getting into the realm of radical chemistry. So if you look at, in undergraduate chemistry, undergraduate teaching today, radical chemistry is almost like a voodoo.
Oh yeah.
People are afraid
no one wants
of
to
it.
touch, uncontrollable, isn't it? That's what people say.
Yeah, exactly. People, that's a perception. That's how they're teaching people today, is radical is uncontrollable. It's scary, free radical is going to attack your DNA, that kind of thing. So the thing is, once you know how to control it, so photocatalysis essentially embedded in it is how you control the beast, how you control that radical, so that you can sustain a catalytic cycle involving radicals. I think that's a key difference. Being able to control that beast, that beast is powerful. You need to know how to control that beast and do the chemistry you want it to.
And what is chemistry if not the pursuit for something which is highly reactive, isn't it? That you want reactions to happen.
Yeah. So, but however, the thing is with thermocatalysis, you normally react with reagents or starting material that are pretty reactive to begin with.
True.
So then you heat it up and make them react. So the thing is, with photocatalysis, you can start with something very inert, and they only become reactive when you shine light onto the system. So as a result, you can have an inherently safe process.
And it is a more efficient one, right? Because when you hit something, most of your energy goes into temperature, right? You can't really hit specifically just where the reaction happens. You hit your whole vessel. So I'm assuming photocatalysis is a sort of thermodynamic advantage overall, isn't it?
Yeah, especially you want to do a reaction that is endergonic.
Yeah.
So, for example, CO2, anything that involves CO2, likely you're going to have a delta G that is positive, because carbon dioxide is one of the most stable molecules, right?
Of course.
So that's why if you look at nature's strategy, to react with CO2, you have to use photons, input the energy in to drive thermodynamically uphill, which is what today's process with heat is just not designed to do that. Today's thermochemical process is based on hydrocarbon. Everything downhill from there, not going uphill. Yeah. It's really rarely you do an uphill reaction with heat driven.
And yet nature chose a different way. And if when nature does choose a way, there is typically a very fundamental reason, right? So is photocatalysis inspired by nature in any ways at the beginning, or did it just happen and then you find the connection with nature?
So the thing is, the studies of photosynthesis has been going on since many years. The thing is, how you reduce it to practice is a different story. So people knows about photons. People actually in the 60s and 70s, those are the heyday of photochemistry development, to really understand potential energy surface in higher lying electronic states, understand conical intersection, how things live, how long reactive species live, everything in the 60s and 70s. When you have those femtoseconds, picoseconds spectroscopy, people can look at excited state lifetime and how they traverse in the excited states potential energy surface. So, but the thing is, only in the last 10 years, actually spearheaded by Professor McMillan and Professor Stevenson, Professor Yoon. So around early 2010, they really are starting to use light to do practical organic chemistry, and since then the whole area essentially exploded. Everybody want to know more and learn more about photocatalysis in organic chemistry.
And it's fascinating what you have said at some point, because basically photocatalysis potentially opens up the possibility to rethink the way you design chemistry. You don't necessarily need to start from highly reactive species at the very beginning, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it's so. Do you think we are at the beginning of a revolution in chemistry? Is organic synthesis going to look very different a few years from now?
Yes, so that's why I'm starting up.
That's what you're working on, right?
Exactly, to fundamentally change how chemicals are made, and especially in today's environment, you can see there's a big push for petrochemical companies, for chemical companies to be more sustainable. I mean, the thing is, we cannot continue to do, business as usual. We're gonna kill ourselves.
Of course.
So, but the thing is, economic machine is just a big machine that you cannot stop an economic machine.
No.
Everybody will starve.
Then the chemical feedstock is coming from the oil industry, isn't it? Chemistry as we know it is 99% from there. And too often I've seen people thinking about alternative sources like the biomasses in the same way as we look at oil, right? As a source of hydrocarbons, pretty much. But it cannot be looked at that. It cannot be looked at in the same way, in my view. And it feels like your angle is much more promising. But we are at the very beginning, aren't we?
Yeah, so the thing is, we are involved in the methods. It's like a recipe. We are making a new recipe, but we still require feedstock from somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
So either from oil or from biomass, or from CO2 directly. So the thing is, biomass at one point also come from CO2, right, from photosynthesis plants, biomass.
Indeed.
Even oil, the same thing. Oil is just photosynthesis from billions of years ago, millions of years ago. They all came from the same product, which is photosynthesis.
Yeah, but usually in the general chemical concept, a fully stable, fully oxidized carbon species is the end of it, right? It's not interesting anymore because it's really hard to take back into a more reduced state, isn't it?
Yes, then the only way I believe is either light or electricity. That's the only two ways you can pump energy into the system. I mean, to make thermodynamic sense. That's the only way.
And in fact, both photocatalysis and electrocatalysis seems to be quite trendy at the moment, and then that's the reason then.
Yes. So I think both approach has its own pros and cons, for sure.
Of course.
But together, I think they can make magic happen to be the next the revolution in chemical manufacturing.
It is quite exciting. Let's get to your technology, okay? So you said that from about 12 years ago, this started being a real thing. Most of the established technology is precious metal complexes based. You are moving in a completely different directions. Where does this come from? And can you describe a bit more of your work and your own technology?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, the thing is we need to learn from the ruthenium and iridium photocatalysts and understand how they work. So, and then you can reverse engineer to apply the same principle, apply the principle on organic molecules. The thing is, when I look at those iridium and ruthenium photocatalysts, fundamentally, they are just you shine light on them and then they spit out an electron and then they get the electron back and cycle many times.
Yep.
So in that sense, organic molecules can also do that, because normally if you want to use a transition metal, you want to use it for coordination chemistry, to combine things, for cross coupling, for example. If the catalyst, if the sole purpose is to absorb light and spit out electrons, organic molecule can do that. So that's the fundamental premise. I believe, we can exploit that that principle and design organic molecules to do that. But the thing is, you can see there's many different chemical space. A large chemical space. So that's where theoretical chemistry, computational chemistry, can really help accelerate. The thing is, we can predict the properties of the molecule before you synthesize it, and the process can be much accelerated.
So your organocatalysts tend to be fairly big molecules that are highly conjugated, right? Which makes sense. I'm assuming your objective is using visible light mostly. Am I right?
Yes.
So are you saying that you design them sort of ab initio in a sort of rational way, starting from the computation, or what was the starting point? Was there any moment where someone noticed that there were some of these species able to perform this catalysis, or what was the starting point?
So this is it was like 2015 or so. So Gary and I essentially started collaborating. That was before I joined the group.
Yeah.
So he has more insights on the experimental side of things. I have more insights on theoretical. So he will give me different classes of molecule, as a starting point, and then we start computing and look at the redox properties of the molecule, and then we iterate from there. So of course, you have to have some starting points, and you need to iterate many times until you get to a certain range of properties that you're looking for. But the thing is, you need to have some starting point and get to some families. So for example, ultimately we came to the dihydrophenazines family that led to the science publications, and then phenoxazines, and subsequently dihydroacridines and benzopyrrolines. So you can see certain families of organic photocatalysts which just possess certain range of properties allowing for a certain type of transformation.
So what is the level of understanding and the sort of matureness of your platform? Are you already able to sort of pick the right type of catalyst, the family or the variant, and also sort of guide the reaction condition scope in a rational way? Or do you still need to screen a big number of them, like most of the catalysis field is usually run these days?
So yeah, I mean, catalysis still has some mystery, be honest. I mean, as much as you want to be rational, the thing is, what we can be rational is, for example, certain range of redox potentials. We know this is going to be an oxidant rather than reductants. And if this is a reductant, how good is a reductants? So the thing is, the idea is, we want to generate a whole map of redox potentials, so that when you screen, the likelihood of hitting, likelihood of success is much higher. So screening is still part of the process.
Okay.
But the thing is, you need to design tools, photocatalysts with ranges of a wide range of redox potentials. So when you start screening, you're more likely to hit, to have a hit reactions.
So chemically, as you said, these stuff are capturing and splitting electrons in a sort of ultra simplified way, and you mentioned sort of the formation of radical species. So a lot of the application starts from this sort of radical polymerization reactions, the ring opening reaction, polymerization, these sort of things, which I'm assuming are already quite efficient with this method. Am I right?
Using the light, you mean?
Yes.
So I would say it definitely introduced another dimensions. So for example, so previously, let me use a atom transfer radical polymerization as an example.
Sure.
So previously, you use copper 1 as a catalyst, and you heat things up to, let's say, 80 Celsius to do this control polymerization. So however, today you can use light and using our photocatalyst, for example. And the thing is, you can really control the molecular weight. The thing is, when you turn the light off, everything stops. Yeah, so rather than it just keep going with the heat, it just, you can control the degree of polymerization a lot more precise, and things like that. And it can open up, new opportunities.
And I'm assuming overall that the reaction conditions can be considered milder, right? So and the energy that you need, because switching on a light must be cheaper than heating a vessel at 80 degrees.
Yeah, and generally that would be the case.
Yeah.
So, however, I mean, light, you still have to do a lot of, light also costs money.
Of course.
But the thing is, light, the good thing about light is you can integrate with a renewable infrastructure. This is our thinking to decarbonize the chemical industry, because by introducing light, you can get the light from solar panel, and solar panel is getting a lot cheaper and more efficient.
Yeah.
And then you have this LED that also getting a lot cheaper and also a lot more efficient. So this will make the photons a lot more greener and cheaper to drive the future of chemical manufacturing.
That's amazing, and it makes perfect sense. Well, someone might argue that even heat can be generated by renewable sources, right? You could potentially use solar panels and just create heat from there.
So, however, if you from a chemical engineer point of view, so not all energies are created equal.
Yes.
So electricity is the most, electricity is the most expensive and valuable energy compared to heat, because if you think about, it's just interconversion, right? Interconversion efficiency. Yeah. So from electricity, you can make heat 100%, but from heat to electricity, you only can get 30%, for example.
Yeah. Oh, that makes perfect sense, and that explains it. You always need to look at it from a sort of holistic perspective as much as possible, right? So we mentioned the radical polymerization reactions, but there are some other applications that, to me, when I was reading some of your work, were really surprising. You were speaking at the beginning of opening the possibility to reduce really stable molecules. You can do Birch reduction. You can reduce benzene.
Exactly.
This was really amazing. Can you speak about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so especially in the Miyake group, they have been really focusing on highly reducing photocatalysts, organic photocatalysts. So, for example, before burst reduction, we were able to do CO2 reduction. We turned CO2 back to methane. So that was done with phenoxazines. So the thing is, Garrett, he wants to push the envelope. Yeah. So the envelope of the ultimate price of reduction is burst reduction, because you cannot get more reducing than a solvated electrons. So then the question is, can you generate solvated electrons using light and actually do benzene reductions? And indeed, yeah, we found
yes.
Yes. So, however, to generate solvated electrons, normally one visible light photon doesn't have enough energy. As you can see in the paper, it takes two blue photons to, essentially it's like taking two steps, to pump the system twice, ultimately causing ionization, eject the electrons into a solvated electron and do burst reductions.
Does it mean that the reaction occurs, but it's not particularly efficient?
So at this point, it's not that efficient at this point. I mean, just like any discovery, like the first airplane only flew 100 feet, right?
Of course.
Before you can cross the Atlantic Ocean.
Of course.
So at least, that one established feasibility to do reduce benzene. So at least, for academic research is to show possibility, show what's possible. So
you're confident that this will improve. You see scope for achieving the efficiency eventually.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that was amazing, because the Birch reduction is actually a quite useful reaction, but not many people want to do it. You don't want to deal with an alkali metal in liquid ammonia at minus 75 degrees. I mean, this is it's hazardous and quite crazy, if I'm honest. But sometimes you have no alternative, and you need to do it. And I've seen it done at industrial level. But if you could do it photocatalytically, that would really open a revolution. I think people would consider doing this sort of, pursuing this sort of synthetic paths.
Yes, that's the whole objective. Yeah.
Another surprising one to me was the carbon nitrogen coupling reaction, and that was looked a bit more complicated to me, because you actually seem to have a dual catalyst system there. You have your photocatalyst, you still have a nickel salt, so there's the nickel metal playing the real catalyst job, I suppose. So there must still be some sort of complexation chemistry going on in your mechanism. Can you describe that, and what was the importance of that result?
Sure. So I mean, I think just now I mentioned about photocatalyst is good at spitting out electron and get the electron back.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, there's still important role to be played by transition metal. So transition metal, especially once it comes to coupling chemistry. So the thing is, you want to, so for example, in this case, the photocatalyst is actually activating the nickel.
Okay.
So by nickel by itself, especially if you in the paper, it's like a nickel 2 salt. It's a very stable, and people use it in undergraduate lab. The nickel 2, nickel chloride, hexahydrate. Those are very stable. The thing is, again, it fits in the narrative. The nickel 2 will become active when you have a photocatalyst activating it to nickel 1 species. So nickel 1 species now become a beast. It has enough electron density now to do cross-coupling chemistry. So I think the key I would say advantage is that previously this kind of cross-coupling chemistry using PGM complex like palladium, for example.
Yeah.
But palladium normally do this kind of cross-coupling chemistry using a 2-electron pathway, which is a, rather than a single electron radical pathway. But however, nickel now, after getting activated by the photocatalyst, now it can do a single electron chemistry and do cross-coupling.
So does the reaction performs well? I mean, is it like comparable to more traditional ways of running the cross coupling?
Yes. So actually, in some cases, we can make compound that cannot be made using palladium
because the activation of the metal is more efficient, I'm assuming.
I would say more efficient. I would say access different pathway, different. When you access different pathway, you just get new chemistry. I would say complementary. I mean, palladium is still pretty good, yeah. But the thing is, certain combinations, nickel and photocatalyst can do things that palladium cannot do.
So it's intriguing because obviously cross coupling is really hot, and it's become like a very, very dominant in the synthetic chemistry toolbox, and this is widely utilized, and being able to contribute to the platform and expanding the application scope, and that's actually remarkable and amazing. I picked a couple of things that caught my curiosity. Would you have any other sort of exciting application at the horizon? You're speaking about you're interested in sort of green applications and reducing carbon dioxide. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, sure. I think the CH activation will be the next frontier. So this is something, again, photocatalysis is doing pretty well. So let me give you an example. So CH, if you can do CH activation well, you can change the whole petrochemical industry because they're all hydrocarbons. So those are something we are working on, and it should be the next frontier. And also ultimately combining CH activation with CO2 activation. So because this is what we're really focusing is also CO2 activation and reaction with CO2. So those are the two key areas that we are focusing and working on.
I'll ensure that I keep an eye on that because I'm really, really curious to see where this goes. It's all super exciting, and and I'm sure you'll have a lot of success with your research and new iridium. So and congratulations for what you have achieved already. It's really mind blowing from from a sort of old school organic chemist like myself. So it's really interesting to see how this is evolving. We are coming to the end of our chat. We touch on a lot of aspects from your personal experience and your science, and you're still very young and you have a lot to work on, and you're super excited and determined. So I can see you going really far. But can you stop for a minute and look back, and based on your experiences, provide a suggestion for someone who is just starting, right? Maybe a young student or a young chemist? What would you recommend them to do?
Yeah. So the thing is, when you're young, you have to make decision based on very limited data point, right?
Yeah.
So I would say go with your heart. Just believe in yourself. The thing is, no one really knows who you're gonna be, what this is gonna become into. I think a fundamental belief and fundamental courage and confidence will take you somewhere. So just don't be afraid. And when you're young, don't be afraid of tackling hard problems. Because, for example, if you're in grad school, everybody has 5 years, right? It's not like some people have 10 years, and everybody has the same amount of time. So make it count. So really work on something that you're passionate, that you're willing to give everything. So don't be afraid. Stick with something, give everything. Yeah, and just believe it. And that's the best you can do, because no one really knows. No one can judge you. No one knows where this is going to take.
Great way to close our chat. Chern-Hooi, thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot. So thanks again for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Paolo.